Joining me now live on the South Shores Morning News, we have special guest Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Christine.
You know, it's so tough to keep up with all these scams, with people getting scammed, with phone calls, with phony paperwork. The scammers are getting more and more sophisticated. And I called your office because I saw that somebody had been representing themselves as I think a lieutenant right from your department, soliciting money, which was not true. They were trying to rip off people. And you are telling me about something that's even more sophisticated than that. And the scary thing is all this paperwork you're showing me here, this looks real.
Absolutely looks real. And, you know, it was funny. You called me or reached out to me on Wednesday. I was at the sheriff's meeting out in Springfield. And that morning before I had left, ironically, I was talking to one of our assistant superintendents about a super sophisticated scam, the likes of which I have never seen before. And I thought to myself when I saw your text message, I said, wow, she's really on top of stuff. She knows about this. So
thanks for the credit,
yeah.
But no, it was much.
Well, it's unbelievable because routinely, at least once a month, we get information that someone is being or attempting to be scammed by someone claiming to be from our office. And we routinely put up on Facebook, no, there is no Lieutenant Jacobs, there is no Lieutenant Wright. These are the names that they've used.
But this
is unbelievable.
This is something from the U.S. District Court, District of Massachusetts, an arrest warrant, and this looks like the real deal. Not that I've been arrested. Priority mail service return, more United States District Court mobile escort orders, and then something here talking about surety bond authority. Tell me how this scam works.
Well, this is unbelievable. This level of sophistication, as I said, is like nothing I've ever seen. I'm 20 years the sheriff now, and before that, 10 years a prosecutor. And I had to look for several minutes at this paperwork before I was able to identify issues, red flags that said to me this stuff wasn't valid. Because like you said, there's a U.S. District Court arrest warrant there, a federal arrest warrant with the individual's name on it. It appears all to be in order. But when you look, and also mailed, these documents that you're looking at that look absolutely genuine were mailed to an individual ahead of time through the United States Postal Service. And it looks absolutely real, except when you look at the address, the return address, it's mixing the state stuff, the county stuff, with the federal stuff. And although, as I've said many times, we have partnerships with all of our federal law enforcement agencies, we don't do things like this. And this is a judicial branch kind of a thing. The Marshal Service would be the ones who would handle anything federal like that, not us. And one thing, DA Cruz says this all the time when we do our scam talks, they will not call you if they have an arrest warrant. They will just come and they will get you. So if you get a call stating that you have to turn yourself in or you have to put money in a kiosk, hang up the phone.
Now, in a couple sentences, what were they trying to get this person to do, or what did they accuse them of, and what were the options? Because there's always an option that seems to involve sending them mass quantities of money in some form.
Right. Now, this one was unbelievable in its level of sophistication in that they clearly did background research on the individual that they were targeting. What they have been doing, apparently, is looking at some databases, individuals that may have availed themselves of some of those COVID era loan programs, things like that, claiming or someone took money under your name, something like that. These things are absolutely plausible because so much was going on without any stops during that time when COVID was rampant. So a lot of these folks, some of them probably did take loans and think to themselves, oh my gosh, maybe I did, I don't know. And they allege that somehow there is an irregularity or money was improperly taken by you or someone else, and that now you were supposed to appear in court to answer these charges, and you didn't. You failed to appear, you were properly served, and of course no one was properly served because it didn't happen. But it looks so real, and when people get these in the mail first and then a follow-up phone call, what they're doing, the options that they give you, like you say, you can, this particular one, before the individual questioned the alleged officer and he became irate in the phone, they said your options are turn yourself in at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Office or proceed to a kiosk that at one of those cryptocurrency things and deposit money into specified accounts belonging to them.
Roughly, how much money are they asking for?
Well, they always ask somewhere, between $500 and $2,500. So it's not a massive amount of money, but
it's a chunk of
yes.
money.
And I think sometimes what can happen is, under certain circumstances, with the account numbers now that they have, that may give them access to some of those credit card or bank account numbers and things like that. So that's when you have situations where people take huge amounts of money. The interesting thing to note here, too, is where some of this activity is emanating from. We know a lot of it happens offshore and
Right.
out of the country, but one of our lieutenants, Lieutenant John Vano, he's a tremendous investigator. He followed this up, and you're looking at it right there. Where this came from is shocking to me.
This is from Georgia.
Yeah, from the state of Georgia.
Right.
But not just the state of Georgia, the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Inside the jail.
Inside the jail. These scams, or many of these scams, I shouldn't say all of them because there's a vast array of people that are doing it, these scams seem to, some of them, be originating with inmates inside the Georgia, so serving sentences in Georgia state prisons. So what they've done is somehow they've gotten access, and there was one set of scams that were targeting medical professionals, doctors, nurses, physical therapists. What they were doing was researching these people through the state licensing website, and then alleging lawsuits involving their patients and clients.
Wow, this is crazy. So I guess the advice for this situation, even though this might make you pause for a bit because this looks real, if you've got a question about any of this and you don't know what to do with the phone calls, the mail, your best advice?
Well, your best advice in any of these circumstances is to notify local authorities. Call your local police department, call us at the sheriff's office. We will help you get to the bottom of this. And these things look, like I said, I'm a lawyer. I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a sheriff for 20 years. It took me several minutes to find something here that indicated to me that this was phony, that this was fake.
This is really scary, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing this with us, and we're going to get this interview up online too, and maybe we'll get a few copies of some of these documents so people can see just how real this
Absolutely,
looks.
yeah. I'd like it if you did that. And the other thing I want you and the listeners to be aware of, we have also alerted our partners at the federal level. So we notified the U.S. Marshal Service about what's happening here. We've notified the Postal Inspection Service, and as you know from having dealt with them, the postal inspectors are an unsung group and not really thought about, but outstanding investigators at the federal
relentless.
level. They're unbelievable. Every postal inspector I've ever dealt with is absolutely aces, so God bless them. And I think, knowing that those guys are aware of this.
Hey, those are the guys that went after the Great Plymouth Mail robbery, There's some great investigators. Hey, Sheriff Joe McDonald, Plymouth County, we really appreciate you joining us this morning and sharing this story, and we're going to have you back again soon. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Christine.
And we're Rob Hackler.